On day 3 of the MyBHARAT National Lecture Series, we have with us an eminent speaker, a scholarly academician, and a prolific parliamentarian, and a speaker with a lot of fan following, Dr. Rakesh Sinha ji. Dr. Sinha ji is a professor, former member of parliament, Rajyasabha, and a noted scholar on Indian political thought and nationalism. Over the years, Sir has contributed exclusively to public discussion and discourse through his research, books, commentary on governance, constitutional values, civilizational thoughts, and contemporary national issues. As a parliamentarian and academician, Sinha has consistently advocated informed policy decision making rooted in Indian cultural ethos and Indian intellectual traditions. Known for his incisive analysis and scholarly approach, Dr. Rakesh Sinha continues to engage students, educators, and policymakers on issues of nation building, leadership, and India's evolving role in the world. Dr. Rakesh Sinha on behalf of Disha Bharat and all our audience, I extend a very warm welcome to you. We are very privileged to have you in our lecture series this evening. The audience are waiting to hear from you, Sinha and over to you.
I am happy to be part of Disha Bharat and Mythic Society's joint venture that this series. Respected Rekha Ramchandran ji, Manvita ji, and all those who are today participants and future participants, because it would be part of the YouTube. You know, it is very difficult to speak on a subject which is a part of a popular culture, oral narration, and non-state celebrations. Revolutionary movement in India covers all these three. It has never been the part of the state agenda. It has never been the part of the professional historians. It has always been the part of the popular culture. Bhagat Singh and others survived not because of the Indian historians, but because of the Indian people who created a space for them. Therefore, I consider that these subjects are known to each and every person. They have their own interpretations. That's why I said it is difficult. Still, I would try to share some ideas on this issue. The empirical facts we all know. Beyond the empirical facts, there are certain things which remains undiscussed in Indian discourse. One of them is that why there are two separate streams, moderate and revolutionary. Why? In fact, this is a colonial construct. There is the only holistic mode of freedom movement. And every effort is complementary to each other, because the final goal was to achieve independence. Final goal was to free motherland from the British clutches. Instead of that, this colonial construct dominated our side. It still dominates. How they created this construct? I'm giving two examples. In 1913, 17th November, in Basavara district of Rajasthan, the Britishers killed 1,500 Bhils, tribals. And 1922, on 7th March, they killed 1,200 Bhils in Gujarat. Now, you see the killing of 1,500 and 1,200 Bhils. One was in Vasavara district of Rajasthan, other was in Gujarat. These are two symbolic incidents. number of incidents of killing thousands of tribals and poor people by the Britishers. Therefore, the colonization is not a principle or idea. Colonization was not a mode or method. Colonization was a complete violence. It was a complete violence. They used treachery, violence, conspiracy to dominate, to hegemonize. Therefore, this violence, this colonialism, the, the particular term freedom movement itself it itself covers partial idea. It is an anti-colonial movement. We have to overthrow the colony. This is the idea. Those who came through violence, they must be treated like that. The counter violence is not a violence, it is a protection. So, revolution is a protection of the motherland, is for the self right, for self dignity, protesting against the exploitation. So, to create a delegitimacy for revolution, they started a new stream of moderate. So, there's a fundamental difference between the two. The moderate movement, whether Gokhale to Gandhi, try to get legitimacy from the Europe that we follow non-violence. We are protesting against the violence by using the non-violence. We are ready to bear all kind of tortures because we are good people. By good, we want to defeat the bad. This was legitimized by the Britishers and Europeans because they wanted a safe rule, full safety of their people in India and abroad. So delegitimization of the revolutionary movement by creating a binary between moderate and legitimate and revolutionary. There is no place of binary. Both were complementary. Here I consider RSS founder Dr. Hedgewar. Is it classic example create a system of anti-colonial movement? He participated in Gandhian non-cooperation movement and also tried to mobilize the revolutionaries against the British rule. He also protected Rajguru, had given a shelter to Rajguru, as well as he cooperated with Subhash Chandra Bose. See, he is one example, but there are thousands and millions of examples, people who wanted that the freedom movement or the anti-colonial movement should be holistic in mode. So we have in history book the fractured movement, blinkered ideas about the movement. Therefore, no state government, no Indian state had given the full respect, honor, and mainstream space to the revolutionary movement. I'm giving two examples how they have been ill-treated. Madan Lal Dhingra killed Curzon Wiley on 1st July 1909. Now, no, Madan Lal Dhingra, 13 March 1940, he killed Curzon Wiley. Now, the Dhingra was executed in London. There are two executions in London. One Udham Singh, second Dhingra, Madan Lal Dhingra. Two Indian revolutionaries who had been executed in Britain. Now, Dhingra's remains came in India after a long gap in 1976. Another revolutionary, Shyamji Krishna Burma. He was a great revolutionary. He founded India House. He became inspirational for the revolutionaries all over the country and outside India. His remains was brought to India in 2003. He died in 1930 and remains came in 2003. Madanlal Dhingra and Udham Singh. Udham Singh killed in 1909, 1st July 1909, Michael Dwyer. Now you see the Dhingra and Udham Singh both played a vital role, but they have not received the treatment which so-called moderates receive in their books of history. So I think that this binary should be ended. And here I quote a French fellow, Algerian psychiatrist. He wrote a very famous book, Wretched on the Earth. He rightly pointed out that colonialism is not an idea, it is a violence, systematic violence. It creates disorder among the people who have been colonized. So counter violence should be used to decolonize the nation. So here also there is another difference between the revolutionary movement and moderate. Moderates were for the political freedom. They engaged in the dialogue, struggle, discussion, constitutional means, parliamentary democracy. So they wanted that India should be freed and we should rule. That is the self-rule. Revolutionaries, on the other hand, were more linked to the, attached to the culture of the country, soil of the country, fraternity of the country, social transformation, economic transformation. We all know Hindustan Socialist Republic Army, what they stood for. So it's not a question of socialism or non-socialism. It's a question of our revolutionaries had idea of a future India. That's why Dr. Hedgewar, he was a common revolutionary. He was not a big person in 1921. He challenged British rule in the court. He said, who had given you right to do a trial on Indians? You don't have right. Which law of the world gives the British right to rule India? So here, revolutionary delegitimize the colonialism, colonial rule. And so they don't require the legitimacy from the Britishers or Europeans. This difference has not been properly discussed, and the binary continues. This binary must be removed, and we must treat freedom movement in a very holistic manner. And those who had been opposed to the revolutionary movement, in fact, their socialization is a reason that India has not been completely decolonized. Geographically, politically decolonized, but culturally, linguistically, it has not been decolonized. So importance of revolutionary movement is a vital, not to understand only freedom movement, but also the present context of the Indian society, culture, and democracy. You see, the revolution is not merely, generally we take revolution as using bombs, pistols, and violence. It is not only that. Revolutionaries were all those who were challenging the Britishers in a straight way. No other via media in their challenge. They created a system where they said that Britishers should leave India. India is for Indians. Bharat Bharatiyon ke liye hai. We cannot tolerate you. So attack by the words or attack by the bombs, both were equally important. And all those who stood for complete independence of the country, culturally, politically, socially, economically, they were revolutionaries. So I'm giving one example how the revolution took place. In Allahabad, there was a weekly magazine, Swaraj. It had only 75 issues. 2.5 years it continued. In 2.5 years, 8 editors went to the jail. Total imprisonment is 94 years. to 8 editors. How could it be? I'm giving some names. Mm, Hotilal Verma, he got 10 years imprisonment for one editorial. Baburam Hari, he got 21 years imprisonment for two editorials. Nandalal got 30 years imprisonment for three editorials. And Ladharam got 30 years imprisonment for three editorials. So there was an advertisement in the paper for the editor. It was a Hindi paper, so advertisement was संपादक चाहिए, सेवा की शर्त, दो सुख, दो, और हर संपादकीय के लिए 10 साल सश्रम कारावास की सजा, 1 glass cold water, 2 breads, and for every editorial 10 years rigorous imprisonment. You know, there was a huge queue of the people who wanted to become editors, and 8 names have been listed. So 94 years, 8 months imprisonment for 8 editors. This is not the only example. In Britain, when Dhingra was executed, Gray Aldred, he raised the voice. In his printing press, Bakunis Press, Indian Sociologist was published. Indian Sociologist was a journal which was started by Shyamji Krishna Burma. That journal was started in London. Again, it was printed from Paris, then Geneva. So when Gray Aldred published the journal, and he challenged and he questioned the Dhingra's execution, he was persecuted and got 12 months imprisonment. So large number of journals and papers challenged the Britishers, and this challenge has created an atmosphere where patriotism blossomed in the form of anti-colonial movement, not petition, prayer, and dialogues with the Britishers, but rather claiming the self-right, and those who declaimed our rights. So, direct struggle with them. This was a revolutionary movement. So these revolutionaries, you see their sentiment. We are at present in a material better position. We are living a free life and happy life. See what Dhingra wrote. Poor in wealth and intellect, a son like myself has nothing to offer to the mother but his own blood. My only prayer to God is that I may be reborn of the same mother and I may die in the same sacred cause till the cause is successful. Vande Mataram. See his ambition. Sacrificing life is not obligation to mother, self-obligation. Praying to God, give me another birth, let me die for the same cause if cause is not successful. He represents the character of the revolutionaries, their sacrifices, their commitment, their sacredness, their purity of life, which is unavailable to the other streams. They were fighting for the positions, power, and hegemony. Swaraj became a fractured among their hegemony. I'm giving one example. Subhash Chandra Bose was elected the Indian National Congress president in 1938. He was re-elected in 1939. He defeated Pattabhi Sitaramaiah. In 1939, in Tripuri, where Congress session was scheduled, Subhash Bose had 104 fever. He was in Pune, but he decided to attend this session. He was humiliated, insulted by the delegates. Naturally, they were the supporters of Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru. They said he is a fraud. Bose was declared a fraud, a liar. He had no fever. And there is a saying, I don't know whether it is medically right or wrong. He kept onion in his armpit, so he had fever. Mr. Haldar was a health minister in Mumbai. He checked and he found 104-degree fever. Then delegates again shouted, no, no, kindly wait, because onion was till before few minutes. So he had fever. So he waited and he had fever. Ultimately was forced to step down as the Congress president. This is not the one story. Hundred of the story for the power and position. How much to cooperate Britain, how much not to cooperate. They were killing our people. Jallianwala Bagh is not one incident. This is one of the incidents. I'm giving some names of the incidents. In 1938, 29 people. In Karnataka, in one of the massacres, 34 people were killed. So there, in Bihar, there is a place in Tarapur where more than 3 violence took place. And continuously, the other stream said that no, we are a pure people. We are a non-violent people. We will force you to stop violence. Nobody has right to claim representative of the millions and millions people. You cannot claim. So when Bhagat Singh ji was hanged, moderates remained silent. Revolutionary movement's role has not been properly discussed. Another aspect of this revolutionary movement is that it created a kind of secular ethos. Moderates started politics of appeasement. You know, the Indian National Congress in 1885, there were 72 delegates, 59 Hindus, 2 Muslims, 2 Christians, and 2 Muslim, 2 Christian, 9 Parsis. 1904, the Hindus were dominant, Muslims 10, and Parsis 20. The Congress president, you say, in 1985, W.C. Banerjee was a Christian, Dadabhai Naoroji a Parsi, 2 Yule and Wedderburn were Europeans. So the entire Congress movement in the first 10 years were the people who were half British and half Indians. So the Congress movement was consolidated at the cost of the exploitation of the Indian people, killing of the Indian people. And why I say that the revolutionary movement was a secular in ethos, a Sakullah Khan, or so many people, they never considered that I'm a Hindu, you are a Muslim. So patriotism was a love for motherland was a religion for them. So I'm quoting Bahadur Shah Jafar. It's a very important quote. And we require that Muslims should be inspired by Bahadur Shah Jafar's this quote. He was in the court. So मांगो जान की हुई शमशीर हिंदुस्तान की no strength left in for life India as cold. Bahadur Jafar replies, गाजियों में बू रहेगी जब तक पान की तक से लंदन तक चलेगी हिंदुस्तान की. Till there is a great commitment for the sword of Hindustan would continue to challenge London, not only in India, your rulers in India. So the revolutionary movement was a kind of culturally inherited a movement. It was based on the aspiration, legacy, history of the country. It was not an imported idea from the Britain. So our violence was based on Bhagavad Gita's message that for your protection, for evil forces, end of the evil forces, you can use the violence. Third important aspect, which is very important, I raised in Rajyasabha when I was a member. India is the only country where revolutionaries were small children. No other country has this parallel. There may be exception, 1 or 2%, but India has a large number of revolutionaries, so born patriots. We hear the story of Dr. Hedgewar that in a very childhood in school he was given sweets when Queen Victoria Diamond Jubilee was coronation Diamond Jubilee was celebrated. He had thrown out. We see that this is exceptional or mythical story. No, that's not true. Baji Rawat was 12 years old in Orissa. He challenged the Britishers. He didn't allow the British army to cross the river, and he was killed and he became martyr. In Patna, 18th August 1942, Umakant Sinha, Ramanand, Hargobind, Devipad, Jagatpati, Satish Jha, and Rajendra, these 7 children, they were 9th and 10th class students. They gheraoed the secretariat to hoist the national flag. The British officers ordered to shoot them. Now all 7 became martyrs. Tilesri Barua in Assam, she was 12 years old. Sisir Kumar Mehta in he was 15 years old. So children of 12 were 13 years, 14 years, 15. They were at the moment, not guided by some kind of aspiration. The only natural inspiration was to free motherland from the occupation of the British rule. This process of the movement, one more aspect. That aspect was Indian sociologist has, it was one of the first general, which theoretically deliberated the question of India's freedom and of violence. In one of the articles, it was written, it is impossible to join injustices and brutality abroad. Means you are doing injustice and brutality in India with justice and humanity at home. In London or Britain, the government is talking about the humanity, justice, liberty, equality. And India, they are suppressing all these things. So this paradox cannot be brought together. So that's why this journal was declared illegal and prohibited from circulation and from printing. This question was discussed in India after the independence. But the Indian state has 2 limitations. If it gives the mainstream space to Dhingraj, Umakant Sinha, Baji Rawat, Tilesri Barua, if the history book writes the last will of Madanlal Dhingra or Gadar Manifesto or Anusilan Samiti, Atmonati Samiti, these are all in Bengal. In every line it brings revolution. Jantar was prohibited. Hundreds of people were arrested because they were arrested with the Jugan. It is general.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Yes, Ji. Yes,
Uh,
Ji.
this was disconnected. So I think time for question hour is, or should I continue?
Yes, Ji. We can continue. We
Hello.
still have time.
Uh, so another, I was talking about the children who participating in the movement and taking the name of seven children who were participating in Patna, Baji Rawat in Orissa, and Tileswari Barua in Assam. So when the Vande Matram became the rising slogan for the independence of the country, so this this should this was treated by Britishers as an offense. So anything which question their dignity, which question their mode of exploitation, which question their hegemony, they took the mode of violence. So in that process, you see the kind of sacrifices the revolutionaries and the nationalists did during the freedom movement. During my Rajyasabha tenure, I tried to find out at least one person who was born after his or father marches. And fortunately, not one, I got two. In Wardha, I met Dr. Arvind Malpe. That time he was 80 years old. This was in 1942 in Chimur and Asti. There was a violence by the Britishers, and dozens of people were killed by them. His father, Govind Malpe, was martyred. Then Arvind Malpe was in his mother's home. I have, I am fortunate that I met not once, but three, four times. I went to his home. I spent my hours and hours with him. Second person I got when I was honoring the families of the freedom fighters in Bihar, Begusrai. One of the person's name was Sahid Kumar. It naturally created curiosity in my mind why his name is Sahid. His father's name was Radha Prasad Singh. He belonged to a small village, Meghol, where there was no school, no roads, no electricity, that time no water supply. But the level of consciousness among the poor people were very high. Index of consciousness among those who were without bread and butter, without any material advancement, but their consciousness level was high. Radha Prasad Singh, with a group of people, reached to a place where a British officer was staying. In his absence, he forced, without touching the body of his wife, to wear the khadi sari, had an Indian flag, and she was brought to the villages. In kind of, she paraded in villages with the national flag. And they also very in a dignified way. No attack on dignity. When the officers came back, he came to know that he would himself kill the Radha Prasad Singh. He came to that village with the police officers. He started beating, not by the bullet. He said, I would kill by beating. So villagers were afraid of that. One lady, Ramrati Devi, pelted a stone on that police officer. Then villagers had some kind of confidence. They came out, and then that British officer, the local police, left the place. When Radha Prasad Singh was going to hospital, they were brought to the hospital. On the way, he said that don't worry, Sahid Kumar is coming. He named his son before his death. That time, his son was in his mother's home, 4 or 5 years old. That's why he, before his death, he named his son. He said that my mission would continue with my son. So Govind Malpe's son Arvind Malpe and Radha Prasad Singh's son uh, uh, Sahid Kumar, I met both together, and I think that Mythic Society and they should call and honor these people. They are the only two people who are left now. They are almost now 84, 85 years old. Therefore, I consider that most important thing now I'm concluding that freedom movement history should be not only rewritten, it should be evaluated in a fresh way. The reasons we fail to do that, we are more polemical than research oriented. When polemics comes, it ends with the slogans, it ends with the uh, uh, louder claims, but at the ground we fail to unearth the things which happen. Just like the liberty pamphlets, it was brought out in first decade of the 20th century. Very important pamphlets. This shows the how Indians were mentally well equipped. Theoretically, they were sound. We didn't require George Washington's messages or Churchill's messages or, or Carlyle's messages for our own movement for the freedom. So that Swadhin Bharat, this it is very important. So this revolutionary movement was decentralized. It was not centralized. The only effort of centralization was done by Dr. Hedgewar when he started connecting the people during the First World War, Punjab, Central Provinces, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and some other parts. But due to the domination and hegemonic position of the moderate movement and Gandhian movement, it was not possible because there was a kind of understanding between the two, that the Britishers coercing the movement and Gandhians hating the movement. So hate and coercion, the victim of the two. Still, it survived because it has purity. Chandrasekhar Azad, we know the name, the kind of purity he maintained entire life. Rajguru, you all know. So this kind of thing should be researched out. This is a long process. This is not a short process. You have to go to, and oral history is very important. We have not recorded the oral history about the revolutionary movement. So in Karnataka's massacre uh, survived because of the oral history. No, it was not recorded properly by the historians. Then historians come when the people's sentiment emerges and collective people's sentiment or consciousness emerges about the particular idea, particular movement, a particular thing. Then historians and political class come to for their own rescue because they lose legitimacy if they oppose or they become neutral. Therefore, I consider the challenge before the modern academics is to, particularly non-left academics, we hate left, but but at least they are more research oriented. In non-left academicians or nationalists, rightists, whatever name you give, they, 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 they try to escape the deep research and present the things which ultimately remains unacceptable. Then we use the numbers to make them acceptable. So it should not by the number; it should by the quality of the research, which becomes acceptable to the people. So before I end, I would like to say that the revolutionary movements two important dimensions should be noted. One is that the binary should be completely discarded. Secondly, without being mentally hegemonized by the Gandhian movement, without having any disrespect or devaluation of thought for that movement, the philosophical difference should be understood and underlined. That philosophical difference is that the revolutionary movement completely dishonored any socialization with the colonizers. Revolutionary movement completely associated with the local culture, local aspirations, a local spirit. The moderate movement, on the other hand, used the European culture and Indian culture and created a hybrid. Therefore, I would quote Krishna Bhattacharya in his lecture, Astos Memorial Lecture in Chandrapur, Bengal. He said Swaraj in idea is very important. In 1931, he said that Swaraj in idea can be achieved by understanding the dimensions of the colonialism. Here we find a great similarity between us and the French Fanon. Revolutionaries of India and the French Fanon. French Fanon comes very later in 1961. He writes. He writes in context of Africa and other countries. That time India was already free country. But whatever he wrote, in retrospective, our revolutionaries played the same thing in practical on the ground. Here, I end with that Swaraj idea is still awaiting, and that can be achieved through our own movement for decolonization based on empirical freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Sinhaji. I mean, it was a very thought-provoking lecture this evening. I'm sure all our audience who have joined us this evening on the live lecture series will be probably forced to think about how to understand the freedom movement in a different light. Like you have rightly mentioned, the role of moderates and revolutionaries need not be seen in a binary manner, and we have to get over the binary view of the freedom struggle. And yes, uh, like you ended very rightly, Swaraj is an idea, is very important. It has to be understood in the right sense through the Swadhina movement. Thank you very much, Ji. There is, there are a few questions. The first question on behalf of all our audience is, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and the INA represent one of the most significant revolutionary chapters in our freedom struggle. Why do you think their historical memory as it should deserve?
During the freedom movement, European Europe-centric culture produced some leaders. Without questioning their integrity and commitment movement, they created a network. That network was headed by popular leaders. They also used the popular sentiment of the Indian people to maintain their hegemony on Indian freedom movement. They discarded each and every stream which questioned their domination in the freedom. And Bose's idea was to mobilize the Indian people and throw out the Britishers. No compromise. So anti-compromise sentiment was represented by Bose. So here Mahatma Gandhi's experiment, there can be experiments, but that experiment at the cost of the people. Thousands and thousands of people were brutally killed. Millions and millions of people exploited, drain of wealth. So your experiment leads the suffering of the generations and generations. So this in India is not a laboratory for the colonialism. It was treated as a laboratory for the movement and no, it was not laboratory. So present generation is the freedom and material good, but the generations and generations suffered. That's why they discarded Subhash Chandra Bose. And I mentioned that this is a servant of India reported. Whatever the story I told about Subhash Chandra Bose, this was reported by servant of India. You can, the 1939 servant of India, you can see the news item, how he was insulted in Tripuri Congress. So later on historians, there were a network of the people who occupied the seat of power in New Delhi. So India's presence in the Commonwealth itself was an insult to the our martyrs. The people who exploited, the people who coerced, and you are cooperating as and the British Queen or King is becoming head of the Commonwealth. So that's why Subhash Chandra Bose was discarded. Once Subhash Chandra Bose emerges, then the artificially projected people get demeaned, devalued. So maintain their position as the leaders of the freedom movement, they sacrifice their life. But in comparison, in comparative, you see the sacrifice of Subhash Chandra Bose, Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, and other revolts. Triloknath Chakravarti, who spent 30 years in prison. He wrote his autobiography, 30 years in prison. That's why Bose has been, before Narendra Modi regime or before BJP regime, had been completely discarded by the Indian state. It was only after 2014 and 2022 or 21, his statue was placed in at India Gate. This is not only Bose, but also all the revolutionaries. We don't remember the leaders of the Bhils movement in 1922. We don't remember the Bhils movement in 1930. So symbolically, we remember one leader, Birsa Munda. This is symbolically satisfying the particular community and particular tribal group, but their sacrifice remains uncounted in the India's movement of freedom.
Thank you, Ji. The next question is quite obvious. We have picked this from your speech. Since you have mentioned about Hedgewar's and Hedgewar ji's contribution to the freedom movement in or bringing together the freedom struggle in a certain way, what do you think is the role of RSS in revolutionary movement?
You know, the archival record says three important things. The first report was 1929 British police. 1929, just 4 years after the formation of the RSS, there was a unit of RSS unit branch in Wardha. They reported that this has potential to become a revolution. In 1931, the army intelligence was quoted. This has potential to become a revolutionary movement. And RSS training and the methods of training all were based on futuristic plan that it had aspirations to create a revolution in the country, armed revolution. That's why Dr. Hedgewar wanted that 3% of Indian population should be part of the RSS. And my days in the RSS, S.S. Deshpande, who later became a critic of the RSS and initially was a part of the RSS, he mentioned some training programs like Buldana and other places where military training, the guerrilla war, everything were given to the volunteers. Second important thing which Dr. Hedgewar tried to infuse, that he cautiously maintained that RSS was a Hindutva movement, is a Hindutva movement, but he cautiously maintained that we should not be region for the binary between Hindus and Muslims. A lot of patience he maintained. That's why in 1934, when there was discussion in the Central Provincial Assembly on the RSS, 2-day discussion for the first time in Indian parliamentary democracy since the colonial era, 2-day discussion never took place except that 2-day discussion on RSS ideology, leadership, and the programs. M.S. Rahman, who was a Muslim member, supported RSS as a patriotic and movement. So every place he wanted that RSS should be organized in such a way. But by that time, By that time, the Gandhian movement became very strong. So RSS had one important paradigm in its role in the freedom movement. It wanted that the platform of the freedom movement remain unfractured. So it had not used its flag, banner, and leadership. Whenever whoever wanted RSS support, RSS supported that movement, whether it's the revolutionaries or the Gandhian movement. So 1932, 30s, we know civil disobedience movement, and after that, when Indian National Army. So the British report, again archival report says they declared RSS as a fifth column. Fifth column is kind of seditious movement. So they say that there is a danger that when INA would enter India, the RSS would be its platform against the British rule. So this is mentioned in the archival report, and that report is still in the NASA. Successful is that in 1942, it mobilized the people, and this mobilization inside the Congress using even the violence. So Chimur and Asti was completely led by the RSS people. Many RSS became martyred in the Chimur and Asti. And in, in, in 1940s, RSS homes were shelter for many revolutionaries and the nationalists. So therefore, I consider that RSS in that stage, if it found that it could not all India movement, now it is too late, then it became complementary to the revolutionaries and Gandhian movement.
Thank you, Ji. There is another question which is for the youth. And the question is, if you had to distill the personal qualities like discipline, courage, and conviction that define the revolutionaries' lives, what lessons would you offer to a young student trying to build character today in today's times, and even outside the context of a freedom struggle, like how to go about having this nationalistic mindset in the youth?
You know, critical era. It's not a question of 1 year, 10 years, 5 years. The era is always considered over 20 to 5 years. There are organizations, there are movements, there are leaders, there are books, pamphlets, journals, TV debates. But we should do a soul searching. Which organization, which individual, which group is trying to judge itself from the parameter of index of consciousness? There is nothing to that. There is nothing which compels us to do something and not to do. Consciousness comes a particular time. If consciousness comes particular time, we become Mahatma Gandhi. If consciousness comes particular time, we become a traitor. So youths are facing a lull in their discourse, where at the national level, they are not finding the people whose words, whose commitment, whose character, the organization ideology gives them message to become more patriotic, more disciplined, more nationalistic. I have a question to the audience. I visited so many primary schools in villages. I found certain photographs on walls. When I repeated my visit 2 3 years after every school, I try to visit, if I visit some place, I repeat that 2 and 3 times. I asked all the headmaster or headmistress of that school, no new photographs you have placed on the wall? She or he said me, sir, kindly suggest me any name, we will put it. That's why I'm telling you that. Dr. Hediwar could create RSS because he created a consciousness. It is not the individual's gathering. It is a gathering of, it is a multiple consciousness coming and melting pot, becoming one consciousness. So, uh, consciousness is a multi-generational relay race where we transfer our one type of consciousness to other generation. That generation, in the context of the social, political, economic situation, shares, does not complete takes that. That's why I am telling you that we are at a very critical juncture where no effort is being done, and every effort is being done is a power centric. Binary is created on the basis of who will dominate the power, who will hegemonize the economy and politics. That beyond the hegemony of the economy and politics, like we lack nas- at national level, local level people who could be seen beyond bipartisan way, and their words should be the message to the young generation, whom a parents can suggest that you can put photograph on your table, where a study table for inspiration. So we have to soul search. Who, if my children say that, kindly suggest names of the people whose photographs we should put on our table, and we say get inspiration, then the answer you will get, the why the youths are becoming indisciplined or not according to our own likes. We don't say they're indisciplined, not according to our own likes. So what we are doing for them is not a question what they are doing. What are we doing for them? That is the more important question than you are questioning them.
Thank you very much, Sinhaji, Rakesh Sinhaji, because I think the future of Bharat is in the hands of the youth, and you have rightly mentioned the role of both parents and educators to make this happen and keep this nationalistic sentiment alive even in the future, so that Bharat one day becomes the Vishwaguru.
Question from me.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for that very thought provoking lecture today evening. On behalf of Disha Bharat and Mythic Society, I extend my warm gratitudes to you, Dr. Rakesh Sinhaji, for this wonderful speech this evening. And I thank everyone on the online platform who have joined us through Facebook and YouTube. Thank you very much. And before I sign off for today evening, I would like to know our audience that tomorrow morning, as part of My Bharat, My Responsibility, a talk by students on the occasion of the 80th Independence Day. Tomorrow morning, we shall begin the talk at 7 and go until 7:30 on the topic Life Sketch of Rani Abbaka and Bharat and Youth topic on being modern without losing our identity. I repeat, it's at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And we continue the My Bharat lecture series tomorrow evening. And we shall meet again tomorrow evening at the same time, 7 p.m., for My Bharat National Lecture Series on the topic Rise of Nationalism During Freedom Movement by Dr. Anirban Ganguly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. I hope all of you have had your share of learning from today's talk and a very strong message that my Bharat and the Bharat future is in our hand. Jai Hind. Namaste.
Thank you.